Early 1800s, the Tennessee frontier. No phones, no police force, no electricity. Just a farmhouse surrounded by woods and a family who believed something had followed them home. Knocking on walls, disembodied voices, hands pulling hair in the night. A presence that spoke, not in riddles, but in full sentences, naming sins, holding grudges.
This wasn't a ghost that whispered. It argued. It mocked. It punished. It claimed it would kill a man. And then it did. And here's the question we're going to be sitting with tonight. If the Bell Witch wasn't real, what kind of fear does it take to invent something that lasts over 200 years?
Welcome back, or welcome in, to the Fear Archive, the podcast where we explore real-life nightmares, the horror films they inspired, and the thin line between history and myth. Season 2 rolls on. Thank you to everyone who came back, and if you're new here, you've stumbled into one of the oldest and strangest haunting stories in American history.
This episode includes discussion of domestic abuse, sexual assault, alleged poisoning, religious fear, misogyny, and historical trauma. As always, take care while listening.
Tonight, we're talking about the Bell Witch, a legend so entrenched it predates modern ghost hunting, and the 2005 film An American Haunting, which claimed boldly that this was the only haunting in the United States history to result in a death. Let's go back to where it all allegedly began. The Bell Witch story originates in Robertson County, Tennessee, between roughly 1817 and 1821. The Bell family, led by farmer John Bell Sr., his wife Lucy, and their children, reported increasingly violent paranormal activity in their home. At first it was subtle, scratching sounds, knocks on walls, bed covers pulled off at night.
Then it escalated. The presence began to speak, identifying itself as Kate, sometimes calling itself Kate Batts, referring to a real woman in the community who allegedly had a land dispute with John Bell. The entity claimed agency, intent, memory, and most disturbingly, it targeted Betsy Bell, the youngest daughter.
Betsy was reportedly slapped, pinched, stuck with pins, and verbally abused, especially when she prayed or attempted to attend church. Witnesses claimed the spirit would sing hymns mockingly, then interrupt prayers with laughter. Neighbors came, ministers came, even Andrew Jackson, future president of the United States and fuckhead supreme, allegedly visited and reportedly fled after his wagon wouldn't move and unseen forces attacked his men.
Whether Jackson's involvement is legend or embellishment, what's clear is that the story spread fast. Orally at first, then through written accounts decades later. And then came the most controversial claim. In 1820, John Bell fell ill, suffering seizures and paralysis. One morning, a mysterious vial appeared by his bed. The family administered it. John Bell died shortly after. The witch allegedly claimed responsibility, stating she poisoned him.
And this is where folklore hardens into something darker. Because whether you believe in ghosts or not, a man died. And a narrative formed around his death that removed human culpability entirely. Which brings us back to our question.
Here's where we zoom out. Early 19th century Tennessee was a pressure cooker. Frontier violence, religious extremists, land disputes, slavery, and deeply entrenched patriarchal norms. Women and children had no legal power. Abuse had no language. Mental illness had no framework. So when something supernatural appeared, something that spoke, punished, and enforced morality, it fit perfectly into the culture's belief system.
Some modern interpretations suggest the Bell Witch story may reflect domestic abuse, family psychosis, or even poisoning masked as haunting. Others argue it's an early American example of collective hysteria, reinforced by religious authority and oral storytelling. And then there's the simplest explanation. The story grew in the telling, shaped by fear, guilt, and time.
Yeah. This story was really interesting. I had honestly hadn't heard about it, and I love hauntings. I love ghost things, and so I was excited to hop into this one.
Yeah, it's kind of a companion piece for our season 1 episode on the entity, and I want to say Carla Moran, but I know Doris Spither. That's her name.
Yeah, Doris.
Yeah. Yeah. So I love that the ghost in the story, it didn't moan or rattle chains. This ghost had opinions.
Yeah. She was definitely serving cunt. She was really getting into everyone's business in that house, and telling it how it is. I could appreciate that.
Yeah. This ghost, I actually kind of I don't want it to haunt me. Apparently, like the family members still say that that the descendants of the Bell family say they still get haunted by this thing, right? And
Which
it
is
kind of
interesting, right?
yeah,
It's like a generational haunting. So,
yeah,
they
totally.
call it Bell Witch, but I'm like, did a witch just put a curse on your family?
Yeah, but this thing apparently used to like take modern, like at the time, modern like songs and like hymns, and it would like turn them into dirty limericks. And
Yeah.
it started like singing one of them at I think John Bell's funeral, and I'm like, dude, that probably was hilarious because I just imagine this thing like yeah. I can't think of a dirty limerick. Hold on. I once was a man from Nantucket. His dick was so long he could suck it. Like, could you imagine this
Like,
disembodied voice floating around his coffin?
that's your version of it. I wonder, like, it probably wasn't as crude as, like, you know.
It's like the scene in The
We're
Exorcist
so religious, though.
where she's like, go ahead, stick your cock up her ass. Says,
Yeah.
yeah. Like, it's like that's probably what it sounded like. But could you imagine like living with that thing and like it like just becoming part of your routine?
Yes. Come haunt me. Come hang with me.
And it's like the dog sucking its dick again.
It'd be some comic relief.
Right? Oh, jeez.
Oh
So,
my god. I mean, the whole story, let's not call her the Bell Witch, right? She has a name, Kate.
no, she
Kate,
said it was Kate. That lady was like, that lady got really freaked out. She was the neighbor that he thought put a curse on her. And the witch like harassed her for a little bit too. Like the ghost, the entity.
Kate.
Yeah. Farmer named John and a ghost named Kate.
So the whole story is really interesting. I was looking at the timeline and kind of created a little timeline, and it wasn't that long from like when it happened and then when it actually like kind of departed. So they started hearing her, Kate, in 1817. And then I made a little time. Let me read it. And then late 1817, that's when the voices and violence started. Then from 1818 to 1819 is when the community spectacle started. So when it really started like spreading like wildfire of like everyone's like hearing about it, and probably when what it was Jackson showed up. And then in 1820 is when the illness and the death happened. And then in 1821, and I'm not sure if you read this part, Betsy broke off her engagement. So she got so haunted by Kate that she was like, I can't get married. And then after that, it was gone.
Huh.
So I have a theory in my head. Do you want to hear my theory?
Oh,
I know it's a little early on for my theories.
I'd love to hear it.
You know I love my theories. I think Betsy's like, fuck the patriarchy. And her and someone else made up this witch so she didn't have to get fucking married.
That's a good idea.
I'm like, Betsy.
I mean, it makes sense. That's a great theory. It makes a lot of sense.
Was she queer? I have so many questions, right? I need Betsy to come haunt me so I can ask her these questions. But yeah,
makes a lot of sense.
Right? And that's what I was thinking. Yeah. I'm like, I wonder if it was like her and a friend creating this to break off the engagement. Like maybe the person she was with was actually really horrible.
Right. Probably were.
Well, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Men.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, I don't know. That was kind of like a theory I had going on in my head when I was reading about it and like looking at a timeline. And I was like, how fucking convenient that your engagement was broken off and then this entity is gone. But it did say that it was like, I'll come back in 7 years. And apparently the brother kind of got a little bit of that 7 years
Yeah.
later, but
And
that's
then
not confirmed.
after that, it was like, I'll come back in 120 years. And
Yeah,
so,
that's a gap. What
yeah,
are you
no,
doing? Who
I
else
don't
are you
know.
haunting?
So, the Bell family still, in fact, everyone in the area still embraced this legend. It's like a huge part of the culture of the area. And by the way, this is about 45 miles north of Nashville, where this, just to
I
give
was
you like a
wondering, and this isn't
geographic, yeah.
like Appalachia, like in the mountains?
Yeah, it is in the mountains because the site
Yeah.
now, people always go to visit the Bell Witch Cave. That's what it's called.
Oh, right. I
The
was
Bell
reading about
Witch
the
Cave.
cave.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But something I found really cool about this. So every year, theater troops actually, they put on a play about the
Mm.
Bell Witch. It's almost like a passion play, but with poltergeists. So, passion play being like the annually performed plays that like reenact the persecution and ultimate
Yeah.
execution of Christ, right? But this is the Bell Witch story. So the persecution of the family, the haunting and, eventual death of John Bell, all that stuff. So I think that's pretty neat.
Yeah.
It's pretty
Yeah.
cool. But the Bells are like still very, very much active protectors of the lore. I wouldn't be surprised if we get someone from the Bell family drop into the DMs. They're
We're
very
here.
they're very protective of the legend, though, and they're specifically particular of the theory that John Bell was assaulting his daughter.
They don't like that theory.
No, they don't like that theory. They don't support that. But there's a lot of evidence to support it.
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that later. So it's interesting because it's like, how can a collective belief create a reality that feels supernatural? Right? Let's just say like there wasn't a haunting, right? It wasn't real. But everyone's in hysteric about this, right? So like thinking about how everyone believing that can create something supernatural, especially in the early 1800s.
I think it's the same. It's the same way that people could take a religious text and say, "Oh, this is real. This happened." We don't know it's real and it happened, but we're so passionate about it. We're so indoctrinated by it. And I'm not saying that about any particular religion. I'm just saying religion in general, right? Like, let's just look at it objectively as being stories, right? Just like this. Let's look at it objectively as a story. I think it's just compelling, just like religious texts. No matter what the religion, you can find something that's engaging to read, right? There's stories, compelling
let me ask
stories.
You this.
Yeah.
How much of the Bell Witch story reflects frontier era religious fear and social anxiety rather than a ghost?
I'm sure that's threaded throughout all of it. I'm sure there's this is a story that's steeped in those things, and that fear of the unknown as well. Almost gets me thinking, and here's a wild theory about this too, but dabbling in the supernatural, of course. You ever hear of a tulpa?
I don't think so.
All right, so a tulpa, it's basically an energy ghost, right? And the concept initially came from Tibet, from Tibetan mysticism. And what a tulpa is, it's essentially a thought form, sentient entity brought into existence through intense concentration or meditation and visualization.
So it's manifested?
Yeah, essentially. That's it. Perfectly. Yeah.
Yeah.
But here's the big but with it.
Yeah.
It can happen unconsciously. So someone could bring it into this world unintentionally, right? So I'd be remiss if I didn't mention I forgot to mention this in our episode on the entity. There's a theory that Doris Byther's haunting was a tulpa.
Honestly, it
It could come out of abuse. Like
explains.
the
It
evil, the
explains.
negative
Yeah.
rage,
Yeah.
right? It manifests as this fucking monster.
Yeah.
So I just wonder. I wonder that when we talk about the story, you know, like, was this a manifestation of, you know, I know the family's not a supporter of this theory, but from a young woman who was being sexually assaulted by her father, did she manifest this creature?
Right. I mean,
I don't
even
know.
going to my theory.
Yes, I love your theory. I think your theory is the one that makes the most sense.
The same thing, right? It's like, I mean, we're talking about a time where you had to believe in the religion of your community, right? These are small communities. You, as a woman, you had to have a partner. You couldn't exist in the world alone. So obviously there were spinsters, and so, you know, women who don't get married, but you were still supported by your family, and you worked, and or if you're wealthy enough, you had, you know, your family's money. But it was encouraged to get married, and that was the hope of your family and your father, was that you would be married off, and there was the dowry and whatnot. So why wouldn't any young girl, because she was young when it started happening, you know, be fearful of, like, what's going to happen to her? What is her life going to become? But anyway, yeah. So I mean, that could, your theory about the a tulpa being manifested,
Fucking rage ghost.
100%. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm into it.
Yeah. So, of course, they made a movie about this. And that movie, well, at least I think they made a couple movies about it, but the most famous movie about this is An American Haunting, and it was released in 2005, directed by Courtney Solomon, a filmmaker best known at the time for high concept genre adaptations and ambitious swings that didn't always land commercially. I think Courtney's first film was Dungeons and Dragons. But this one, it starred, had a great cast. Donald Sutherland as John Bell, and Sissy Spacek as Lucy, the mom, and Rachel Hurd Wood as Betsy. So that cast immediately signaled something far more serious than a disposable haunted house movie. This wasn't teenagers. This wasn't found footage. This wasn't torture porn. This was prestige horror, at least on paper.
The production leaned heavily into period authenticity. Shot largely in Romania, the film used natural locations, candlelit interiors, and minimal CGI, opting instead for physical effects, sound design, and suggestion. That choice really mattered because the film's horror is mostly invasion-based. Bed shaking, bodies pinned, whispers in the dark, things that feel intimate rather than spectacular. And notably, the film avoids turning the Bell Witch into a visible monster, much like the entity.
Yeah, I love that. I actually had only seen An American Haunting for the first time over the last 2 weeks when we were getting ready for this recording. And I was really impressed that they didn't show the ghost. It felt very old school, like Amityville horror type stuff, where it just was like scary, like window opening, curtains billowing, door closing kind of stuff. Budget-wise, this film reportedly came in around 14 to 15 million. Modest but respectable for a historical horror drama. Unfortunately, that ambition didn't translate to box office success. Domestically, An American Haunting grossed under $7 million worldwide, failing to recoup its budget theatrically. It was not a hit. It wasn't even a cult hit at the time. Critically, reception was mixed to negative, with many reviewers frustrated by the third act pivot away from supernatural horror into psychological explanation.
Yeah, but the pivot was the most important thing that the film really does, because instead of reinforcing the Bell Witch as a literal entity, The movie reframes the haunting as a manifestation of guilt, repression, and abuse, suggesting that the witch exists because the truth cannot. That choice alienated audiences expecting The Exorcist or the others, but it also ensured the film would age differently than most early 2000s horror.
And that's exactly what happened. Over time, An American Haunting found a second life on cable and DVD and streaming, often rediscovered by viewers surprised at how un-Hollywood it feels. It's slow, it's talky, it's uncomfortable, and it refuses to give you the satisfaction of a clean, supernatural answer, which puts it in rare company.
The irony is that the marketing hurt the movie. Selling it as the only true haunting to result in a death sets an expectation the film ultimately undermines. But if you view it not as a ghost story, but as a historical horror film about denial, it becomes much more interesting. And that takes us directly into our connections.
So let's strip this down to the bones. Connection 1. The Bell Witch legend emerges in a culture with no language for abuse, mental illness, or power imbalance. Early 1800s America did not have frameworks for trauma. It had religion, it had superstition, and it had stories. When something horrific was happening inside the Bell household, the explanation didn't turn inward, it turned outward.
Connection 2. The witch functions as both an accuser and a shield. It punishes John Bell. It torments Bessie. It speaks what no one else can. But it also protects the family because if the witch did it, no human did. That dual role is crucial. The Bell Witch just isn't a monster. It's a narrative solution.
Connection 3. The story survives because it removes accountability. A death occurs, a vial appears, a man dies. Instead of asking who introduced the poison, the story gives the blame to something unprovable, something untouchable, something already feared. And once that version exists, it's safe to repeat than the question.
Which leads to Connection 4. Hollywood inherits the myth and has to decide whether to repeat or interrogate it. Most haunted house movies repeat the myth. An American Haunting doesn't. It asks, what if the ghost is real, but not in the way anyone wants it to be? That's a dangerous question for audiences because it implies the horror isn't over when the haunting stops.
Connection 5. The Bell Witch and the film both endure because they weaponize ambiguity. There's no definitive historical record. There is no physical proof, and there's no final answer. And that uncertainty allows every generation to reshape the story according to its own fears. That's why the people perform that Bell Witch Passion play every year, right? To tell the folklore.
Which brings us to our through-line question one last time. If the Bell Witch isn't real, why did the story need to be? And the answer isn't because people are stupid. It's because the truth may have been more terrifying than the ghost.
So here's the verdict, not on whether the Bell Witch existed, but on what the story is. The Bell Witch is not proof of the supernatural. It's proof of what happens when fear, power, and silence intersect. And An American Haunting, flawed, divisive, commercially unsuccessful, does deserve credit for refusing to let the legend stay comfortable.
Because sometimes the most honest horror stories aren't about something following you. They're about something that was already there.
Yeah, I do want to say something about the ending of this actual movie. So the film is bookended by...
I was going to say the bookend, yes.
Yeah, the bookend of this movie is horrific. It's really horrific in the sense that...
It's weird.
It's very weird. It's clunky. And I feel like there was a lot cut from this film. So I watched the unrated version, and I really don't know what made this different from the PG-13 version, but maybe it was that ending, because the ending is so heavy and it like kind of implies. So to give you the long and short of it, the beginning of the movie shows a teenage girl being chased through the woods and frantically running to get into her house. And she does, and she locks all the doors and hides in her room, and something's banging on her door. and her mom confronts her a little bit later, and
In modern day. This is
this is in modern day. Yeah,
2005
modern day.
at least.
She
right?
even has like a Charlize Theron monster poster on the wall.
Yeah. I know.
Probably
I was clocking everything because 2005, I was like 18 and I was like, oh, look at her CD player. Look at all the things. Yes.
I'm like, it was probably just because both movies had something to do with Lionsgate at the time. But I also wonder if that was a conscious choice because Sissy Spacek murders. Well, I think she murders the husband.
Oh, interesting.
I wonder if it was like an Eileen Wuornos nod.
Or maybe. Back to the bookend. Back to the bookend.
Anyway, so the end of the so the mom yells at her because she's been rooting around in the attic of this old house and going through stuff she shouldn't have gone through. And then, of course, we get into the legend of the Bell Witch and the whole movie as it is. But then the movie picks up the bookend at the end, the end bookend, where the girl's getting picked up by her dad. Because I guess mom and dad are divorced and
joint custody.
Joint custody. Dad's got her for the weekend, and the ghost all of a sudden reappears to the mom. But it's the Bell. It's
Kate.
Kate. It's Kate. warning her. So mom runs out, and then we see this really morbid ending. It's just this quick shot of the daughter looking terrified in the car with dad as he's pulling away, and she's like pressed against the glass, like horrified look on her face. And mom's just left there, in place, watching the car disappear into the neighborhood, like with the implication that the father is abusing her. It's fucking really, really creepy.
But that's the difference between what the Bell Witch, I guess, story is, right, from like historical context, and why the Bell family, I think, is so against like this abuse, because it wasn't actually documented anywhere that is truly what happened, and it's put in this film saying the father was abusing John Bell, right? That was his name.
Right, John Bell
was abusing Betsy Bell, his daughter, and that this ghost was kind of haunting him because of what he was doing.
Yeah,
right,
and yeah, totally. I just that ending, man. That ending like stuck with me. I was just like, wow.
Well, yeah, I was like,
this is a fucking dark ending for this, because like usually these kinds of movies they have that jump scare ending, but I'm like, this is not a jump scare ending. This is like a lingering dread.
It's grounded reality, quite honestly, and it's like, oh, okay.
I applaud you, Courtney Solomon. And I know you go by Corey Solomon, and I know you're also you've taken on a career as a very successful horror film producer. Corey Solomon just released that. Congrats on your Strangers trilogy with the completion on that. I'm excited to check it out.
Call back to our Strangers episode.
Yeah. You ever want to come on the show and chat? Even as an addendum, we would love to have you on to talk about your bold choices with An American Haunting, because they are bold, but they are effective choices.
Is Betsy Bell more unsettling as a symbolic figure in folklore or as like a literalized victim in the film?
To me, my opinion?
Yeah.
I mean, the movie, I was more affected by the movie than the legend.
Do you think we like lose the witch's motives? Or are they like very clear? Like, I think obviously it's clear, but I don't know. I feel like, why would the witch be haunting Betsy? Or is that like, is the symbolism lost because like it's supposed to symbolize the father's abuse and whatnot, but then why is it haunting her, you know?
Right. So here's my take on that. I mean, I think that the movie was much more focused than the legend itself. And that could just be because, with legends change, right? They're passed down and they become clunky because the narrative becomes distorted over the years. And I didn't want to diminish this in any way, going back to me like making fun and making silly things about the ghost. Like, there are aspects of the folklore that is very silly, like the ghost singing dirty limericks and like, making like fart sounds and like all kinds of weird shit that the ghost in the story did.
Like, there's accounts that the ghost actually was like having full-on debates and conversations.
Yes.
It was like debating people in like a community setting.
Yeah, which is
I
hilarious.
did not understand. I'm like, what does that mean?
The
What does
movie,
that mean?
yeah, and like it would like sing like beautiful hymns, like it could go from beautiful to like this demonic voice, which is terrifying to me at least.
There was claims that it could mimic other family members' voices, and it could also like project, so like the voice would be in another room. So with all that, right, with knowing like what the alleged witch could do, the entity could do in real life, now looking at the film, that wasn't portrayed quite the same. Like, I think like the sounds were there, like the
Yeah,
chains and
it was a little more,
symbolic.
symbolic and like I said earlier, focus. Like they narrowed it down. They cut away a lot of the stuff. There's a lot of documentation around the folklore itself. And I think that's, again, just like years of this thing getting passed and cycled and people putting their own spin on this legend. I think that the movie is the way it is because they were making a movie. I mean, I don't know anyone who would be able to make this movie exactly as it, appears in the story.
We could.
We should.
Okay.
So, the Bell Witch, I know we mentioned earlier that the Bell family is still extremely active in life. I mean, they exist. The like biggest champion of the legend is a very, very distant relative who runs a funeral home. So, the fifth generation, his name's Bob Bell. And he owns a series of funeral homes in the state of Tennessee. And I watched a YouTube documentary about the Bell Witch, and he was talking about an encounter he had where all of the doors in the house opened at the same time, and a wind swept through the house and chased him into his bedroom. And
classic
ghost. I don't know.
No, it's interesting. It's interesting that they're still there in like the same area in Tennessee. Yeah.
The concept of a generational haunting is freaky.
I know, right? And that kind of brings me back to like, the entity of how she was haunted for the rest of her life. And I just wonder, like, because the timeline of the haunting from the early 1800s was so short, was it a true haunting? Then I think that's where my skepticism comes in of like, was it true? Did it happen? Yeah. I mean, I'm sure the Bell family would disagree, and I would love to know more current like hauntings that they may have had.
Yeah, no, I wonder.
Things and experiences they had. So it's like, if you want to defend the haunting and keep it alive, that's great. But like, I want to hear more. What's happening currently?
Right. I want to know. Like, I want to know as well. Like, is this something that's still going on to this moment?
Right.
Well, I don't know. Hey, Bell family, if you're listening, we want to chat, please. We'd love to have you on the show.
One thing that I did read was that when they gave John the poison, well, they didn't know it was poison, but they gave him the poison.
Yeah.
They first tested it on a cat, allegedly.
On a cat. Yeah. Yes. That's fucked up. Yeah. I think that they did that a lot back in the day. Like, here, give the cat. If it's mercury, the cat will die.
Not the kitty.
No, I know. That is terrible. Yeah. And there's the ghost of the cat in the house now, too. Do you think John Bell's ghost haunts that area?
Maybe. I think that, I don't know. Okay, because the poison thing is really interesting, right? Like that he died and he was like poisoned, right? Is that confirmed that like he was poisoned?
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
that's what I read, but I wasn't sure if
yeah.
it was like
No, that's on record.
actual,
He was poisoned, but
right?
yeah, I
So
don't know
I'm
what kind
like,
of level of toxicology they had. I think the toxicology was testing it on the cat.
the cat.
The cat's dead.
Well, if the cat can't take it. So it just, I think, brings back the question of like, how horrible was this man, right? Because the beef, I don't think we really talked about the beef between
Oh,
John
him and
and
Kate.
Kate was
Yeah,
over land dispute.
yeah,
And
he
that
was
is
awful to her.
focused on the movie. In the film, it is focused on that. And they're like in like a little court situation.
Yes, yes.
And they show that. And it's kind of interesting when you think about that part of it and how much of a dick he was.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Donald Sutherland plays one hell of a dick in any movie he's playing a dick in.
yeah, you know, the film was interesting.
Yeah.
I also like questioned the teacher.
Oh, yeah, that was weird.
It was weird,
She
right?
married him. She married him in real life. Like Betsy Bell married her teacher.
Wait, so that wasn't the broken engagement?
In the movie, it might have been. Like in her real life, she ended up marrying her teacher, which was really weird.
Wait,
Yeah, really, really creepy.
wait. Okay, so going back to my theory, though.
Yeah.
Wait. Mike, I think we may crack the case.
Oh, you think
Okay,
that?
think about my theory. I was like, maybe she's queer. She's not queer. Maybe her and the teacher wanted to get married, and that was not the approved marriage. So
Right.
what did they do? They killed the dad,
Right.
who probably picked who she was going to marry, right? Like an agreed father
like
to
arranged
father.
married her.
Yeah. She's like, I'm not marrying this motherfucker. So then she kills the dad and is like, yo, this ghost is haunting me and I can't marry you. But then goes and marries the teacher.
I mean, it's all fucked no matter which way you look at it, you know?
So maybe it was her and the teacher that were creating this entity. Sorry, Bell family. I know it's real. It's real.
Yeah, we're just the story's so juicy, you know? Like we want to.
But maybe that's what it is. Oh, ooh, that's good.
Yeah,
It's
that's something.
giving telenovela.
Yeah, it's. I don't know.
It's giving soap opera.
It is, and then we just need the Bell Witch
And the
coming
ghost
back.
of John is haunting everyone now. That's soap opera.
My question, I'm very confused about something with the caves. What is the deal with the caves?
Tell me about the caves.
I don't know, because the house is gone.
I did see something about the caves, but I didn't see any like
just maybe there's
factual...
maybe there's just paranormal activity around the caves, and it's like the closest structure standing to anything involved in the legend. Maybe.
Let's see.
I think you could visit his grave. I think his grave is still standing.
Shall we go?
I don't want to go. I don't want to get haunted. This is like definitely one of those ghosts. This is definitely one of those ghosts that follows you.
All right.
Like there are. Oh God!
The cave is near present-day Adams in Tennessee. It's along the Red River where the Bell family lived. It's a real limestone cave system.
Yeah,
but that's where the witch lived.
Okay. So wait, there was a real witch. Like Kate was a real practicing witch, or
the entity had a connection to the cave. It retreated there, and it was used as a dwelling point.
That makes sense.
Betsy Bell and a friend. Wait. One popular legend says Betsy Bell
legends.
And a friend were exploring the cave. The friend became stuck or trapped inside. The Bell Witch spoke from the cave walls, and the entity guided them out to safety.
And then it attached to them. See, that's an interesting take.
But I'm like...
So did you hear, and maybe you got to look up, we got to fact check this, but I heard that there's also a lot of bad luck attached to this one. That there were these kids, I don't know if this was like the 60s or the 70s, who like stole something off of the farm. And then when they were speeding away, they were killed in a really bad car accident.
Oh.
See, that's the kind of shit that really freaks me out, that like curse aspect of it all.
Yeah.
The death curse aspect. Creepy.
There's no diary entry or anything describing the cave encounters, though.
It's just part of the pop culture, I guess.
Part of the lore.
Part of the lore. Yeah. Hey, look, Bell Witch, we are not mocking you. You probably are real to some extent.
But I
We're
would
very
love
interested.
to have a debate. I would love to have the Bell Witch on the pod. Let's debate. Let's go. Clearly, she's a community debater.
Yeah,
we
I
want
think,
you on the pod is I think what we're trying to get at. So listen,
yeah.
Kate, Bell Witch, slide into the DMs.
All right. I
Sorry.
don't want you to open the windows in my house. We're inviting the Bell. Apparently, like, do you ever hear that spirits can't cross running water?
Oh, really?
Apparently, that's a thing that, like, that's the one reason why the guy who had the original manuscript from the Amityville Horror wasn't haunted. When he would go home at night, he would cross a bridge over water into the city, and yeah, it wouldn't follow him from Amityville. I don't know.
Guess you're fucked if you live in a desert.
Oh, yeah. Got that American Southwest haunting.
The Bell Witch isn't just a ghost story. It's an American origin myth, once shaped by repression, belief, and unresolved harm.
And whether you believe in the haunting or not, the fear was real. And the story endured because it explained something people couldn't face directly.
Thanks for joining us on the Fear Archive.
Subscribe, rate, review, and tell us what stories you want us to exhume next. There's quite a few.
And remember, the most terrifying hauntings aren't always about spirits. Sometimes they're about what history refuses to say out loud.
You know what, Kate? Please. You won me, Amanda. Kate, slide into the DMs.
Let's go.
Bye. You've been listening to The Fear Archive, hosted by Amanda Kagawada and Michael Ryan Aesop, produced by Cassie Josephove, with original music by Umberto. This podcast is a production of Violet Hour Media.